Okay, so line up the spaces and things, and just carefully push that in. Now normally I would clean this up completely and make sure that everything's got no grit or anything like that in there, but because it's so new, I'm not really bothered. Now I would sometimes put a shim at the top as well, but in this case I just want to feel what it's like before I do that, because if it's too tight, your diff, it doesn't work properly. Alright, so same thing, just put light pressure on it and then turn your out drive and it will just slot straight on. Now I'm just going to push this together and just get a feel. Yeah, I definitely can't, there's no way I'm going to be able to put another shim on that. It's already feels like it's going to be firm, so when you tighten up the screws it's going to be quite tight, so I can't afford to put an extra shim on that. Okay, let's fill it up and screw it up and test it. Alright, so I'm just putting 10,000 weight, which is the stock sort of weight for this car. Now the trick is to get enough in here but not too much. You don't want to overfill these, because as they heat up the oil expands and then you get a mess, you get a leak. That's plenty now. Do your best to line up the screw holes. Now when I'm using the electric driver, I don't tighten things up with it. I just get them in and then stop. Okay, so that feels really smooth but just firm. It's not, there's a very slight engagement there, but it's smooth. It's no resistance. There's no, well, there's resistance of the diff oil, but there's no resistance of pressure of the diff. Okay, so that's built, and I'll show you inserting it back into the case in a minute. The Loctite that I use for most things is a blue. It's a Bob Smith Industries one. Now this is great for things like the input drive cups and just anything that's kind of metal on metal. I do use it on plastic sometimes. I know a lot of you guys would say that's crazy, but I don't have a problem with it. I've never had anything break that I know of because of it. So anyway, one of the things I do is I hold the input drive gear with my finger and my thumb and push together just to make sure that everything kind of lines up well. And when the screw tightens up, you should feel it move the drive cup slightly to mate with the flat. You know, there's no need to over tighten it or put red Loctite on this. Just do it properly, put some Loctite on there and it will not come loose, and it will also be removable in the future, unlike it was before. Yeah, you've seen all this before on my previous video, but I'll leave it in. With these Arrmas, I think there's no problem putting loads of grease on. I've never seen an issue caused by too much grease. This has been shimmed as I showed before. I've added 3 wheel axle shims there, 8 by 10 by 0.2s, and when we go to put it into the diff, the gearbox housing, it will be much tighter than it is from factory, and in some cases it may be too tight, but we'll see. So that's in now. In this case I want it to be too tight because I've got a slight amount of damage on that input drive, but it feels good. once I tighten up the cover, we'll see how it is. Now, one of the tricks you can do is if you've got a ball end driver, when your wing's on, sometimes it gets in the way. So if you use a ball end Allen, it's very easy to get to those screws. And it actually fits better when it's on an angle than what the others do. So you won't strip your hexes. So I'm ready to put this all back on the chassis, and I just wanted to remind you of the tip that I gave at my last maintenance video, was to just seal the bottom of the diff case with some grease. Just stops sand and dust and things getting in. So I know a lot of you guys probably don't need to do this, but where I drive, it's very sandy and dusty, so it's worth it for me, and it really does work. I wouldn't have had as much of a problem with this if I'd done this before. So anyway, that's part of maintenance, I guess, being preemptive and working things out. Yeah, so when you feed this in, just remember to put your drive shaft in, otherwise you'll be undoing everything again. Once again, don't over tighten these screws, do everything up the last bit by hand. It just stops you stripping out your gearbox case. And okay, I'm nearly done, so I just thought I'd give you one last tip. Go and get yourself a set of screws, heap of them, 28mm M3 cap heads. Buy a decent quality one, you're gonna have a lot more success. Yeah, so once you've fitted your good quality screws, set your droop. So yeah, if you see, there's no way in the world I can fit that without pushing that in, compressing the shock slightly. As you can see, this is the kind of thing that happens when your bearings fail. That was just the, forget what you call that part, it's like a chassis brace stop or something like that. Yeah, I've put a new one of those on as well, but if you can buy the GKA ones, the aluminium one, it's brilliant. I never had a problem with mine at all. So anyway, yeah, those bearings have been replaced, and I'm just about done. I've just got a couple more things to tidy up and car will be ready to go again. Alright everyone, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you soon.